On a computer, there are many ways to define 3D information. And here we're just talking about shapes. How do we define a three-dimensional shape in a computer? It's a great question. Then there are a number of approaches, including voxels, which sort of work like pixels, but in 3D, you just define every single point and fill them up. You could just do mathematical expressions, like you probably used to on your graphing calculator. You just do a curve, y equals x squared, and you rotate that curve around another curve, and there you go. You could also do some mix between curves and something more human editable, which are the NURBS that you might see in some software, or Blender just calls them curves. That still use mathematical expressions to define the shapes. We're going to use polygonal models. Polygonal models is by far the most common and popular way of modeling, at least especially with models that are humans are directly editing the data, right? There are other approaches where we are creating models through other workflows, but where I am just sitting down in a piece of software and making a 3D model, directly touching the 3D model data, polygonal modeling is the most common, most useful, and it's generally what we refer to when we say 3D models. Of course, you may combine techniques together. You may model with curves and export to a polygonal model that goes into a game engine, and so on and so forth. So how does a model work? A model is defined of a number of meshes, and every mesh is a shape, just a shape. Usually it is an outside hull, outside sort of container of a shape, right? They're not solid. I can go on the inside of this model, of this cube. I can look around, but I have defined this outer shape of it. I've done that basically just by listing points. I list points, like we call them vertices. There's one over here, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. I connect them via edges. So here I have these 4 edges. I can delete an edge, and you can see that I've messed up my cube. So I connect points with edges, and then I connect those edges together conceptually into faces. So here are the 6 faces of this cube. And that's it. Faces are flat, or at least they should be rendered as flat, or we can assume they're flat, but they might not be. When we define a face, we usually like to use only 3 or 4 vertices per face. And that's because if we add more, so if I, what's the quick way to do this? If I add that, and then if I delete this edge, but then connect these faces anyway, even though there's this extra vertice in the middle, if I have one face that is made up of, 6 vertices, then it's hard for that to stay flat, right? This vertice can move, and the camera wants to render this one face as flat. So as I move here, it looks like a normal square, but then I move over here, and it looks like a normal square, kind of. Move up here, oh, it's getting weird, and it's, oh, this angle in particular, it doesn't really know what to do. What we really want to do is connect probably these 2. Well, we want to delete all of it, but keep on doing. There we go. If we got to this point and then we moved it, it wouldn't mess up so much because we have this extra edge here. So it's like there's one small face here on this side, one face here, and it knows that this shape is not contained. So we want our faces to be flat. That means using 3 vertices to define them. That's called a tri for triangle, and or just called a triangle, or call it whatever you want. And then it must be flat by definition. Or 4, and 4, they cannot be flat. Like this one here isn't flat, but it's fine. It's fine. There's worse things in the world. Because it's like the computer's pretty good at rendering it. There are maybe some weird angles where it won't maybe display correctly, but like it deforms okay. So we like quads because we're pretty good at messing them up. Anything more than 3, we call an n-gon. N is in n-gon, as in like octagon, polygon, whatever gon, something gon, n-gon. And and that just means any other number of vertices to define a face is bad. So let me keep undoing until I get back to my regularly scheduled cube, and I am going to export this cube as an OBJ file, and let's take a look at the OBJ file, which I have open here. I can reload it just in case it changed. Okay, don't save it. So how do we actually save the data of a model on a computer, right? I can make it using Blender, sure, but like, what are we actually doing here? And what we're doing here is we're just messing with vertices. We list them out. Here's a vertice. Here are its positions in space. And behind the scenes, we're also counting an index. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have these vertices on these line numbers or whatever. It also stores texture coordinates called the UV map, which is something that we will learn about in the future. It also stores normals for the vertices, which are something we will learn about in the future. And working with materials is something we will learn about in the future. But lastly, we define the faces. So we have the vertices, view, and we have the faces. That's all we really need. And the faces define each vertice. This little grouping is a vertice, its texture coordinate, and its normal, sort of grouped together as one vertex. And so this face is made up of 4 vertices. For vertice number 1, number 5, number 7, number 3. And I'm sure if we figured out which one was which, we would discover that a face here is made up of number blank, number whatever, number 7, number 3. And that's how it creates the shape. So if we extrude it and not save, but export the OBJ, where are you? Not that, not a PLY. While I am doing this busy work, it's worth noting that like OBJ is a pretty old file format. I'm up to 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? What did I do? I extruded, yeah. So we have 8 vertices. 4. No, we should have more than 8. We had 8. Did this not load? Don't save. Yeah, there we go. More than 8. 12. That's right. So we had more vertices. We're going to get a larger file. That's all. That's the only point I wanted to make with that. 3D modeling has been around for a while because it's very difficult to make a good 3D modeling software and to work with files. We still support 20, 30-year-old files. We still use software, Blender, Maya, 3ds Max, Cinema 4D, AutoCAD. All of these major 3D modeling pieces of software are like at least 20 years old because it takes a long time to make something that's good. So that's just something worth mentioning is like, this isn't going to change anytime soon. You know, it doesn't matter what new features Unreal puts in its engine. We're still going to be working the same way with these models. You know, we might find some optimizations, some workflows, might do some more scanning. I don't know, but like these techniques are surprisingly robust. So a thing worth mentioning. All right, but that's the basics of what 3D models are and how they work, and how we create one mesh out of vertices, edges, and faces, and then multiple meshes can get added together into a single model. That's a circle. It doesn't even have a face. There we go. I meant to add a sphere. Mesh, sphere, where are you? Sphere. And then you add a bunch of the meshes together into one model. Blender treats them as objects. It's a whole thing, but just if I was considering this as one model, I would consider these as different meshes, although in Blender I would refer to these as different objects. In fact, inside of one object we can have like multiple collections of shapes, right? There's nothing that says a mesh has to be a single enclosed thing. A mesh can just be whatever we define a mesh as. So very robust. We can do a lot with it. So the way we like to work or the way that's preferred sort of comes down to preference and workflow and what's not going to break and mess you up in the future. Okay, that's it. Bye.